the Common Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure, and Communities. As you know, today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website, so you are aware the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few points. First, members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. For members participating in person, proceed as you usually would when the whole committee is meeting in person in a committee room. Keep in mind the directives from the Board of Internal Economy regarding masking and health protocols. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you are on the video conference, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. Those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the proceedings and verification officer. Am I still coming through, Mr. Clerk?
We can hear you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. If I may, and remember a reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed to the chair. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. With regard to a speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do the best we can to maintain the order of speaking for all members, whether they are participating virtually or in person. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on October 29, 2020, the committee will now continue its study of targeted infrastructure investments. I would now like to welcome our witnesses and introduce you to them. First off, we have from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Mr. Graydon Smith, the president. From the Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative, Christine Smith Martin, executive director, and Paul Correa, senior policy advisor. From the Fédération Québécoise de Municipalité, we have Jacques Demers, president, and David Boulay, economic advisor. From the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, we have Walter Sedzik, the vice chair and mayor of the city of St. Catharines. And from the Regional Municipality of Niagara, we have Jim Bradley, the regional chair, as well as Rob Foster, regional councillor from the town of Lincoln. So with that, members and witnesses, we're ready to go. I am going to start off with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for 5 minutes. Mr. Smith, you have the floor.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Graydon Smith. I'm president of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and thank you for the invitation to address you today as you study targeted infrastructure investments in social and economic improvements in the lives of Canadians. AMO believes that infrastructure can improve the lives of Ontario residents in all communities across the province. Ontario has 444 municipal governments that serve communities in all parts of the province, from our largest cities such as Toronto and Ottawa, to farming communities in Eastern and Western Ontario, to Windsor and Essex County in the south, Moosonee in the far north. All are dependent on infrastructure to improve the lives of their citizens. In addition to being community governments providing direct services to residents, municipal governments are major players in our local economies and, by extension, provincial and national economies. In Ontario, municipalities invest revenues of about $50 billion annually in our communities to provide needed services and capital works that support residents, workers, and businesses. These municipal investments provide ongoing stimulus for local economies in the short term and more efficient access to goods and services in the long term. In the recent pandemic, municipal services such as transit and transportation have kept essential workers going, while others, such as sanitation, water, and wastewater, have kept our residents healthy. Ontario municipalities are also responsible for social housing and deliver social services and childcare, critical supports to our residents, especially in times of emergency. Of the $50 billion Ontario municipalities invest in our local economies annually, the majority, $41 billion, are own source, such as property taxes, user fees, and other revenues. The pandemic and lockdown measures have had a variable impact on municipal governments, with many municipalities deferring property tax payments for stressed residents and increased costs for operations such as transit, while reducing user fees for services that cannot be safely offered. Last year, Ontario's Financial Accountability Officer estimated the pandemic had a $6.8 billion negative impact on the province's municipal governments. In recognition of this impact, the provincial and federal governments provided a much needed $4 billion in Safe Restart Agreement funding to Ontario municipalities to help with operating cost needs and transit. This financial support has been welcome, helping municipalities navigate the pandemic without major layoffs or staff reductions in critical services. Recently, the Ontario government provided almost $1 billion in additional funding to support municipal services and operating costs, social services, and transit, recognizing ongoing impacts of the pandemic. Municipal governments appreciate this funding and hope that the federal government meets the province's call to match these funds in the federal budget. Doing so ensures municipalities can continue to deliver quality public services and continue to invest budgeted capital funds on infrastructure improvements. This, in turn, helps to ensure local services and contractors can count on planned investments and hire workers. AMO and our members also appreciate stable federal and provincial infrastructure funding, such as the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, Ontario Gas Tax for Transit, and of course, the Federal Gas Tax Fund. Since its inception in 2005, municipal governments have appreciated the stability, flexibility, and predictability of the Gas Tax Fund. The recent announcement that the federal government will provide an additional $2.2 billion through 2021 in the new Canada Community Building Fund will support additional local infrastructure projects in areas such as road and bridge rehabilitation, transit and transportation, energy retrofits, and water service improvements. These funds will be quickly put to use by municipal governments and act as a significant stimulus across communities. Together with ICIP and Ontario infrastructure funds, these funding streams form a suite of programs that help to support substantial improvements in municipal infrastructure for our communities. Since last spring, AMO and our members have also noted the current pandemic's impacts are different than previous recessions. The health emergency that it has caused has made the need for more, better, and more affordable childcare and housing obvious to all Canadians. These services are delivered by Ontario municipal governments and determine the ability of our residents to take part in our economies, earn a living, access services, and live with. While supports have been available, it is impossible to overstate the remaining need, and funding will be vital to meet it. Finally, the committee is interested in broadband expansion and the role it can play in economic and social development. AMO and the Rural Ontario Municipal Association have been unequivocal in the need for better, affordable broadband services for our communities in Ontario. The pandemic has certainly revealed the major need for improvements required to allow people to work from home and access services remotely. We're encouraged by the federal government's investments, such as the Universal Broadband Fund and the Ontario government's funding programs to support expansion. Better connectivity will have economic impacts for business, smart agriculture, and logistics, as well as the delivery of health and social programs, education, and culture. While we appreciate the recent investments, we know the need is great and the goalposts continue to move with new technology. We hope that the federal budget will help accelerate attaining these objectives. Thank you for the opportunity to share AMO's views.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We're now going to move on to the Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative. Ms. Smith-Martin and Mr. Correa. I'm not sure who's going to be making the presentation, and I'll leave that up to you.
It's Paul Correa here. My colleague, Christine Smith-Martin, our executive director, is still struggling to get on, I believe. I don't think she's on. And I'm wondering if I could wait for her, or if there's any way you could reorder.
You can. I can do that. No problem, Mr. Correa. No problem. We'll move on to the Federation of the Quebecois des Municipalités. Mr. Demers and Mr. Boulay. Once again, I'm not sure who's going to make the presentation, but I'll leave that up to you.
Bonjour.
Good morning. I represent the Federation, but I will let David make it. If that's all right. I'll begin then. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Jacques Demers, and I'm the mayor of Sainte-Catherine de Hatley, Rive of Montfremagog Regional County Municipality, and president of the Fédération Québécoise de Municipalités. Today,
your mic up a bit? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Excusez, ça,
Pouvez-vous,
Just right above your mouth and below your nose. That'd be perfect. Go ahead.
est-ce que c'est mieux comme ça?
Is that better? Thank you. I'll start again very quickly. My name is Jacques Demers. I'm the mayor of Sainte-Catherine-de-Hatley, reef of Montfremagogue RCM, and president of the Fédération québécoise de municipalités. The FQM represents 1,000 Quebec municipalities. It is the provincial association which has the most members in Canada. It has both regional and rural municipalities. It was founded in 1944, and for 77 years, we've been representing all RCMs across Quebec. We are very representative of our rural area, and we're very proud to be here today. I am accompanied by David Boulet, who is going to make the substance of the presentation. He is our economic advisor. David? Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon, committee members. Investment needs are different in all the regions of Quebec, and public policy must be appropriately adapted. However, we still see that there is significant underinvestment in infrastructure and services in the region. It always seems more difficult to convince public authorities to invest in areas where the population density is low. Some targeted investments, like internet investment, has a huge impact on how attractive regions are and on the region's survival. Unfortunately, the sound keeps cutting out.
pour sensibiliser les pouvoirs publics,
The Federation has multiplied its efforts to invite infrastructure investment across the regions so that municipalities receive adequate funding. A good example of this is the Federal Gas Tax Fund. In its first iteration, the fund made it possible to invest significantly. Municipalities could invest in fire stations, municipal buildings, parking facilities, but for some years, in spite of efforts to make their case, it has been very difficult for the Federation to persuade governments to invest in these essential buildings and facilities. I was referring to internet, broadband internet earlier. On March 22nd, the Premier of Quebec and the Prime Minister of Canada announced massive funding to connect all Quebecers to high-speed internet through the project Operation High Speed. I applaud the bold and committed approach of both governments. However, it has taken efforts over many years, letters, requests to MPs and ministers before we could finally see a tangible plan and firm commitments to get everyone connected. Efforts to bring this home were significant. Broadband internet is teleworking, learning, communication, as others have said. It is communication for everyone. We no longer have to prove that it's an essential service. So it is very important for this committee and other bodies to communicate the message that investment in broadband internet in rural areas and low-density population areas is extremely important because in urban areas it already exists. After the pandemic, there will be other challenges associated with providing services to Quebecers and Canadians, and cell infrastructure is a case in point. We want the federal government to act now because there's no doubt at all that a dollar invested in the regions and in rural areas is a dollar well invested for everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Boulay, and thank you, Mr. Demers. Very, very much well done. We're now going to move on to the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, represented by Mr. Walter Senzik. Walter is the Vice Chair, as well as the Mayor of the City of St. Catharines. Walter, welcome.
Good to see you, Chair Badaway, and to the rest of the committee. Thank you for the time that you're giving us today. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is an organization of over 100 mayors from both the United States and Canada, working to ensure our two countries can effectively use the largest freshwater resource in the world to propel our region's success into the 22nd century. Our number one priority remains to keep people safe by stopping COVID-19, and I want to thank Parliament and the Government of Canada for their financial support of municipalities and the doubling of the gas tax during these challenging times. Just a reminder, 80 years ago, the Canadian Parliament and US Congress worked together to create a joint vision that became the St. Lawrence Seaway and inspired the creation of the Great Lakes Fishery Commission and many international bridge corporations, hydro dams, shipping locks, freshwater ports. It was a collective vision of how to drive this region's economy for generations to come, and it was a binational vision. The electrification and automation of transportation, increased pollution, emerging toxins such as PFAS and PFOS, invasive species such as in Asian carp are some of the challenges facing the environment, our economy, and the society of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence region. The main challenge that affects every other issue and decision in our region is climate change. Addressing climate change requires Canadian and American governments to have a joint vision with funded plans that municipal governments can access to build for the future. Canada's 10-year infrastructure programs and the President Biden's administration's new infrastructure investments are critical for economic growth. Without a vision to sustainably build along the shores of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence for future growth, this new funding will not reach its full potential. The Canadian government has spent $19 billion over 10 years in emergency disaster funding. Most of that is due to flooding, to rebuild what was there before, but not to rebuild to stop future flooding. The following issues could easily be discussed in greater length, but I just want to touch on access to safe drinking water across North America, the likelihood of year-round shipping in the Great Lakes due to climate change, the cost of erosion to once stable shorelines that we've seen all along the Great Lakes, the effects of harmful algae blooms that put drinking water at risk and kill native species. These issues cannot be solved locally. Extreme weather events can wash away a community's entire infrastructure in one storm. The local water treatment plant can be closed because of agricultural practices 300 kilometers away and a few days of hot weather. When high water of 10 centimeters in Lake Ontario threatens Ajax or Kingston with millions in damages, the easy solution is to open up a dam on the St. Lawrence to lower the water level in the lake. But lowering that lake by 10 centimeters could increase the levels in Montreal by a meter and cause billions in damages. We need real solutions that work for the entire basin region. Last year, the city's initiative was part of a collaborative funded by the Environment and Climate Change Canada that released the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Action Plan 2020-2030. I submit these reports and the 30 recommendations to this committee for consideration. Much of the reports have been included in the Canadian Water Agency consultations and the work being done by the Parliament of Canada, Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Task Force. It's the foundation of our parliamentary priorities also submitted to this committee. Thus, today, the mayors of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence area have three messages. One, please review our parliamentary priorities and ensure that all departments get the required portion of the required $2.2 billion over 10 years funding that they need to protect this important watershed. Invest in one-time $7 billion investment over 2 construction seasons to help shoreline communities in Ontario and Quebec address the most urgent water and shoreline infrastructure and erosion mitigation projects. This could create over 150,000 jobs in the region. This program could quickly become a national program for all shoreline communities with an investment of 9 to 11 billion over 2 construction seasons. And finally, there are 19 federal government departments and agencies that oversee water policy or management in Canada. There are countless provincial and local government groups with some control or responsibility for the water in your community. 80 years ago, Canada and the United States came together to develop a long-term vision for the Great Lakes St. Lawrence area. Now is the time to do this again before we spend historic amounts on infrastructure funding in the region. We need a plan for the region that recognizes the realities of the century that we're in, but also the coming 22nd century. Thank you for your time and looking forward to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Senzik, and well done. Well done. We're now going to move on to the Regional Municipality of Niagara. We have both Jim Bradley, the Regional Chairman, as well as Rob Foster, Regional Councillor for the Town of Lincoln. Mr. Bradley, welcome. It's great to have you out. You have the floor for 5 minutes. Jim, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, good.
Thank you for the again.
Thank you for the invitation to speak with you this afternoon regarding Niagara's perspective on approaches to enhancing federal infrastructure investments. During this pandemic, Regional Council has remained committed to proceeding with many of its key capital infrastructure projects. Without the support and close collaboration from senior levels of government, financing for many of these infrastructure initiatives that support growth in the region, as well as housing our most vulnerable residents, would not be possible. It is critical that municipalities receive predictable, stable funding that can be invested in the necessary capital projects that sustain our communities. As many federal investment programs are competitive application-based, it requires considerable resources to manage and report on these potential funding opportunities. In contrast, allocation-based funding would enable us to effectively budget for small and especially large-scale projects and aid in the region's overall long-range infrastructure planning. It would also ensure fairness for upper-tier municipalities, considering a disproportionate number of funding programs are geared to rural, lower, and single-tier municipalities. Moreover, through our rigorous asset management process, we ensure our key projects align with the policy priorities and expectations of the federal government by incorporating new environmental and clean energy practices and innovative technologies into design and construction of regional projects. 4 critical infrastructure projects that will influence social, economic, and environmental outcomes by supporting our most vulnerable communities while generating more jobs, trade, and commerce include affordable housing, a new wastewater treatment plant, a new trade corridor, and broadband. With affordable rental vacancy rates at virtually 0% in Niagara, our waitlist continues to grow. Our proposed multi-residential modular project outlined in our federal Rapid Housing Initiative funding program application was intended to create new housing for people with the highest core need. This innovative delivery model was an optimum solution because it would house tenants much sooner than relying on conventional building models. Full federal funding would have offset the capital costs and allowed Niagara Region to operate the building at a 100% geared to income, as there would have been no mortgage required. This was a perfect opportunity to begin to address a significant problem in Niagara. However, Niagara's unsuccessful RHA application has stalled this shovel-ready project. With respect to the planned South Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant, eligibility requirements appear ambiguous under the yet-to-be-announced ICIP Green Stream Fund, and questions regarding this project's potential qualifications and available funding remain unclear. Since this project will be highly dependent on external funding, it has created considerable uncertainty of whether this project can proceed without timely funding. With 3 access points between Canada and the US, Niagara Region is a significant economic hub that is central for enabling cross-border trade and tourism. As Niagara Region continues to grow by 30% over the next 20 years, there will be an increasing demand on Niagara's highways, and it will be important to construct alternative trade routes through the region. Niagara Region has experienced challenges qualifying for national trade corridor funding, which may be corrected should the program be expanded to include indirect transportation routes that are the essential building blocks for a complete trade corridor to international markets. I will now pass this over to Councillor Rob Foster, who will speak to our challenges with broadband service. Councillor Foster.
Yep.
Rob, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Bradley, and thank you, and good to see you, Chair Badaway. As you and MP Biddle and Baldinelli and Allison are all aware, Niagara Region comprises of a large rural base that has experienced tremendous challenges throughout this pandemic in staying connected and informed due to the lack of broadband service. The region certainly appreciates the government's recent $4.4 million investment to expand broadband in Niagara Region. Nevertheless, 54% of Niagara Region's roads and 13% of its land parcels remain underserviced, and $100 million will still be required over the long term to meet the broadband internet needs for the Niagara community. Therefore, it is essential for the federal government to invest in scalable broadband technology that will be relevant over the next decade, as opposed to funding short-term solutions that may not meet the ever-increasing broadband demands. In addition, it is paramount that the coordination between the funding programs be improved to ensure organizations are not duplicating efforts by bidding on the same broadband service areas, which has resulted in nullified applications. A coordinated funding approach will better alleviate the gaps in coverage of our underserviced areas.
That concludes our opening remarks, and we welcome any questions should there be any.
Thank you, Chair Bradley, and thank you, Councillor Foster. We're now going to move on to the Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative. We have, I'm not sure, Mr. Clerk, if Ms. Smith Martin is she logged on?
I certainly am.
You are.
Thank
great.
you.
Welcome, Ms. Smith Martin. It's great to have you out. And we have Mr. Correa alongside you. I will leave it up to you two to present for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
first want to thank the standing committee members.
Excuse me. Do you have a headset, please?
I have AirPods.
Okay.
Do you have a microphone to those, Ms. Smith Martin?
No, I
you
don't.
can actually move up to your mouth? No?
No, I don't. I could move this actually to my mouth. Is that a little bit better?
Well, we can try that if that's all you have. We'll do the best we can. It's just that the interpreters might have a bit of a problem hearing you and then therefore interpreting. But do the best you can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll hold it as close as I can. Thank you. We'd like to thank the Standing Committee for the invitation to participate in your important study to understand how targeted infrastructure investments can better influence and impact social, economic, and environmental outcomes, with a particular emphasis on rural connectivity. We commend the committee on bringing Indigenous voices into the targeted infrastructure discussion, particularly...
Monsieur le Président, il n'y a pas de traduction présentement.
If you can repeat that, Mr. Brassou-Duval.
Il n'y a pas de traduction.
Unfortunately, there's no interpretation at this time.
Interpretation having a tough time hearing Ms. Smith Martin.
No, they can't hear. So no, they cannot do the job properly.
Okay, so so Ms. Smith Martin, we're going to have a problem with the interpretation because they can't hear you coming through, so therefore they can't translate. Is there any chance that Mr. Correa, do you have a headset?
I do. There's no other way to do this?
Well, unless Ms. Smith Martin has a
Monsieur
headset.
le Président, je vous entends.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies. I'm on the French channel as well, and I'm not hearing you or Mr. Correa, so I don't know if there's a problem that goes beyond the witness.
Mr. Clerk, can you check this out with interpretation, please?
Ça pour le monsieur. Non. Oui, ça for Monsieur Barcelou.
Mr. Barcelou, it's working. There were some rapid exchanges that might have been missed, but it's working now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Brassou-Duval. Ms. Smith Martin, apparently the interpreters can't pick up what you're saying, so therefore we can't translate because of no headset. Mr. Correa, are you able to make the presentation because I see you have a headset. Are you able to make the presentation?
Yes, I could do so.
Okay, so we'll go forward with that. I apologize, Ms. Smith Martin.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Correa, go ahead, and you have about 4 minutes left on the timer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologies for the challenges we face. We commend the committee on bringing Indigenous voices into this targeted infrastructure discussion, particularly because for senior governments, programs are often targeted at Indigenous communities, yet all too often we are left out of sharing our valuable insights, lived experiences with your programs and policies, and our perspectives on the delivery of programs intended to address essential infrastructure gaps within these traditional territories. The Coastal First Nations is an alliance that includes the Wakino, Heiltsuk, Kitasoo-Hehes, Newhalk, Gitgat, Metlakatla, Gitgatla, Old Masset, Skidegate, and the Council of the Haida Nations, with approximately 20,000 members. For the past 2 decades, the Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative has charted a course that has strengthened the connections between our communities, our environment, and our economies. Choosing our future means planning and taking actions that will result in the kind of communities we want to live in and pass on to our communities and to our grandchildren. We are pleased that you recognize the importance of high-speed internet and transportation networks throughout our region, as they are catalysts for economic reconciliation through expanding investment opportunities, well-being, and self-determination. Transportation access and high-speed internet remain priority areas for our member nations, with connectivity being a foundational component of BC's Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the DRIPA Act Bill 41. Many coastal First Nation communities are accessed only by ferry or plane transportation, so affordable access is critical, and high-speed internet is foundational for our resiliency. Meaningfully addressing the Indigenous digital divide requires political will and a courageous cross-governmental call to action to address long-standing policy, funding, and regulatory issues serving as barriers to achieving our mutual goals. Leadership must include a sustained community engagement effort to regularly inform the design, criteria, timing, and delivery of targeted infrastructure funding programs, and a range of capacity planning supports that directly meet communities' digital priorities. For coastal First Nations, this includes our world-renowned science, research, and stewardship initiatives, the Guardian Watchman programs, our conservation economy, carbon credit offset priorities, language and cultural revitalization, a clean energy transition, traditional food security needs, and high-value nation trade and investment export opportunities such as seaweeds, kelps, herring, and fish. We are taking responsibility for our leadership role in investing our time in identifying our connectivity needs and to work with partners, all partners, to find solutions. But we continue to operate at a digital disadvantage, excluded from the basic online services and supports most Canadians take for granted. Funding is critical, and it is needed. So we commend you for that commitment with the Universal Broadband Fund and other infrastructure programs that have been delivered. Given the timing and short turnaround for the UBF, many coastal First Nation communities could not apply. They were too overwhelmed in addressing COVID impacts. The federal and provincial funded Connected Coast transport network is going to be completed by March 2023, and communities are eager to be connected through that investment. However, without capacity supports for nation-led last mile digital preparedness, the community benefits may not be realized. Targeted infrastructure investments that aim to prioritize the needs of Indigenous communities must address the long-standing policy, regulatory, and funding barriers that, after decades of study and dialogue, still exist at the federal level outlined in various previous studies. Like access to passive infrastructure like hydro poles are still a major barrier to accelerate the deployment of high speed, and coastal First Nations plans to address this issue.
Mr. Correa, if you can wrap it up.
Okay. I guess for the nations, access is within reach, but there are still barriers to catalyzing this First Nation-led job creating opportunities and to have this necessary connectivity. The pandemic has highlighted for us now how critical investment in telecommunications infrastructure is, not only for Canada's recovery, but also for the rollout of the next generation of mobile services, enabling coastal First Nations to innovate and expand global stewardship. We are ready to unlock and unleash Indigenous digital potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Correa. We are now going to go into our first round of questions. Starting us off with the Conservatives, Mr. Scheer, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much to all our presenters today. I really enjoyed listening to all the different perspectives on some of the issues that are affecting your various stakeholders today. This may be a question that I invite any of the representatives of the municipalities here today to take a crack at. In the last little bit, we've heard a lot from the Auditor General about the lack of this government's ability to keep track of projects, to track whether or not the program is even hitting its own targets, and also a lot about delays, about the backlog in approvals process. So I just wanted to maybe invite any of the representatives of municipalities here today to see if they can speak to that in their experience, why they think that it's taking so long to get approvals through the current government's infrastructure plan.
Mr. Bradley?
We've not found that to be a great problem. It's a dilemma for a government, of course, because Mr. Scheer mentioned, first of all, the fact that you want accountability and that the Auditor General is looking at that. And yet, the more accountable we must be, the more information we must provide. It really means that we probably delay having a project approved. But by and large, we have found the system to be acceptable. The challenge that we have is meeting the specific criteria. And when there's not flexibility in the criteria, it's often difficult to fit it. For instance, an overall allocation of funding. I hate to use the term because you won't want to hear this, but without strings attached is much more valuable than those where there's an established criteria that is difficult to meet. That's the very competitive ones that are based on various municipalities competing, of course, for them. And without that, it's much better for us if we can have that flexibility, because then we can apply the funds to areas we feel are best. But again, there's a contradiction there, because on one hand, you want to please the Auditor General. On the other, if you please the Auditor General too much, there's not flexibility in the program.
Well, if I could take a crack at that, because I think you're absolutely right in terms of the flexibility piece. The accountability piece, though, is important. That's the after the kind of the follow through, to make sure that if a government says we're going to spend this amount of money and we're hoping to achieve these targets, it's not that type of mechanism shouldn't, if done properly, delay in the project approvals. It's more about tracking to make sure the money was spent properly after the fact. But if we can dive down on the flexibility piece, because this is one I absolutely agree with you. We see government announcements for big envelopes of money, all with various lenses and criteria. And we have had some witnesses at this committee point to the various criteria that are preventing good projects that are ready to go to be initiated, because they spend a lot of time trying to fit municipal projects into the various criteria that the government has put forward in the programs. Would your stakeholders, would your municipality like to see a system where we say, okay, Canada's a big country. There's lots of different needs. Some communities need help with public transit, some don't. Certainly some projects like, bike lanes in cities, Regina, not as easy to move around by bicycle as Toronto is. And those types of decisions being left to municipalities themselves. Mayors and councils can inform their voters what types of projects they believe they need. The federal government doesn't need to get into that kind of dictating to the level that it currently is. Would that something that you would generally agree with, or would you have a reaction to that?
Mr. Bradley?
I think that the flexibility is necessary. Let me give an example. The Green Stream programs, we have a wastewater treatment plant that is going to be a new one. The definition or the eligibility requirement is for upgrades or rehabilitations. So to get our interpretation, so we get the funding, we would have to say that the new wastewater treatment plant was indeed an upgrade to the whole system of treating wastewater, as opposed to a specific plant. So just allowing that little bit of flexibility would allow us to be eligible for the kind of funding that we would need. Whereas now, if we were looking at the specific definition, it would say an upgrade or rehabilitation. So, mind you, when we have discussions with public officials, with the civil service on this, we can offer overcome those problems. And I think allowing the public service to have a little flexibility in this regard would be beneficial to municipalities.
So maybe, Mr. Chair, with the time I have left, maybe if I can invite Mr. Smith, you represent the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Of course, one of the things that always strikes me when I drive from Ottawa to Regina is just how big Ontario is. You know, it takes a good couple of days just to get out of the province of Ontario. You've got such a wide variety of different types of municipalities of all different sizes and very different regions. Would you like to make a comment on the flexibility aspect of the current infrastructure programs and what your members are telling you?
Mr. Smith?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I think a couple of points. To your first point in your original question about is the money kind of flowing? I think that we've got some members that would say, specifically under ICIP, it's been a slow flow at best, and maybe a trickle, and applications for some projects were put in a long time ago, and in some cases still haven't been formally announced. And I know there are bilaterals between the province and the federal government, so I'm not going to speculate on where the logjam is. But municipalities need those dollars and need to be spending them in the appropriate places. And in terms of flexibility in appropriate places in Ontario, we all have asset management plans, and we're all working to improve those plans on a regular basis. So, we have identified the priority projects within the community and adhere to a set of principles and plans to identify those. And so, if we can have programs that allow us that flexibility to spend where we have identified our most urgent needs, so much the better. Predictable, sustained funding that allows us to target investments in all 444 municipalities. That's the goal.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Mr. Scheer. Thank you, Chair Bradley. It's a great way to start off the dialogue today, and great job to all of you. We're now going to go over to Liberals. Mr. Rogers, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's a pleasure to welcome so many witnesses from the municipal side. As a former mayor of 2 different towns, and having served as the president of municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, and also as the FCM board member, I recall many of the debates around infrastructure funding and the gas tax fund and others. So I want to direct my questions around those 2 particular issues. So during this pandemic, our government knows that municipalities, big and small, have been on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19. And to acknowledge this, our government front-ended last year's gas tax fund payment, and will be doubling the payment for this year. So Mr. Smith and maybe Mr. Demers, can you speak to the importance of this funding in terms of for municipalities, in terms of providing flexibility to address the needs of your communities? So perhaps Mr. Smith first, and then Mr. Demers.
Mr. Smith, go ahead, and then Mr. Demers, I'm going to come to you next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would say that the gas tax fund and the doubling of it, first of all, certainly appreciated, as I noted in my comments. That is very much the type of funding that municipalities can use and put to work right away. It does allow certain flexibility for different types of projects under the terms and conditions of the funding. And I believe that has expanded a little bit over the years. So again, stable, predictable, and flexible are really 3 key priorities. And that type of funding does fit the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Demers.
Oui, merci.
Thank you. I liked the answer I just heard. We need flexibility, and we have to make sure it's there, particularly when we increase the amounts, then that flexibility is needed. Quite often, funding is restricted to very specific projects. It's fair enough that there should be priorities, but once the priorities are established, let's make it possible for municipalities to invest where investments are needed, regardless of whether it's a fire station, parking facilities. All too often, there are too many standards and restrictions applied, and people are being taxed, and because the funding is sitting there. The gas tax is a good example. There used to be much more flexibility associated with it. We were able to use the provincial part of it to use for what we needed. The legislation has changed, however, and there are more restrictions. So we might have the amounts, but some municipalities won't have the chance to use the funding because the priorities for them are established elsewhere. There are all kinds of things that need funding in the municipal environment that needs funding. So let's see what we can do on that front.
Thank you, Mr. Demers. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, gentlemen. And I recall your program, of course, was very restricted in terms of what you could use that gas tax money for, but it's a much wider shop now these days. Gentlemen, in our last study, we were working on the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and many of the folks on our benches, including the chair of the committee, have vast experience working at the municipal level of government and know how important P3s are. Can you discuss the importance of or the benefits of P3s and how they can be a helpful tool in getting projects built in your regions? And do you have any examples of that you might be able to point to? Thank you.
I think I'll go to Mr. Stenzik. Mr. Stenzik, you haven't had the floor yet. Why don't you jump into that question?
Thanks, Chair Bradaway. And Chair Bradaway, that's an important question. And I'm just going to pivot for a second away from the environmental side. When we look at P3s and what we found successful to be in our community right now is really around the building of affordable housing. And I know that's not an area where we're really talking about right now, and it's outside of the jurisdiction of what I'm talking about through the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. But when we look at in our community of St. Catharines, we have examples of the private sector, private developers working with our social agencies and the federal government, provincial governments to create the right funding envelopes that allow for the build out of affordable and social housing. And if we're really going to tackle that issue, we need to bring the private sector to the table and create the framework that allows them to be effectively there and participating in what should be a significant investment into housing and community. So I'm just going to leave it there. But from our perspective, P3s do work, especially around the housing models, as long as you have the right parameters in place from the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Stenzik. Mr. Demers.
Oui, merci beaucoup. On vient de
Thank you. I've just received an answer that the program had been broadened, so it could be used for more things. And that should be explained to us because we don't always realize that. Municipalities have many varied needs, and they need, especially the small ones, to have predictable funding. The gas tax is great. It's predictable. Things are going very well, and we thank the government. But flexibility and openness are essential. Some municipalities with the FOS program might have been able to use the funding for a fire station, for example. Now they can't use it for something like that. In fact, restrictions have increased, and that is quite easy to show.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if there's any time remaining.
No, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Thank you, Mr. Demers.
Thank you.
As well as thank you, Mr. Stenzik. We're now going to move on to the Bloc Québécois. Mr. Barcelona-Val, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking forward to asking questions, but before that, I'd like to table a motion. It reads as follows, that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee undertake a study of one meeting on the issues arising from Aeronautical Circular AC 700-048 on the use of twin otter-type aircraft on short runaways, that the committee invite witnesses, including Transport Canada, the Canadian Federation of Outfitter Associations, and Air Inuit to appear at the meeting, and that this meeting be held no later than April 30th.
Thank you, Mr. Barroso-Duval. I apologize to the witnesses. We're just going to take a little pivot here to a motion. Mr. Barroso-Duval, your time has been stopped. Members of the committee, are there any questions or comments? If you can use your raise hand function. Mr. Rogers, you have the floor, followed by Mr. Fillmore. Mr. Rogers, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm not so sure we should be getting into any other studies of any kind. We seem to be going, as we referenced last day, all over the place and not focused on the studies that we've already agreed to. I certainly have no real issue with this, other than I think if it's going to be something we decide we're going to do, I think we should remove the April 30 date and at least say get to it as soon as possible, following some of the other studies that we prioritized.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Fillmore.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with what Mr. Rogers has said. I would just note there appears to be it's a complete list of service providers, but I would like to see if we're going to go ahead with this to add Viking Air as well. So with that, if I could propose an amendment to add Viking Air to the list, and I guess if Mr. Rogers did not propose the amendment that the April date be replaced with as soon as possible, taking into consideration other committee business, I'd like to propose that amendment too.
I'll take that amendment into consideration. And with that, I will allow Mr. Barroso-Duval, as it's his motion that's brought to the floor, to speak. And then I will go directly to the amendment, asking for members if they have any questions, voting on the amendment. And then, of course, with that, depending on the outcome, going to the main motion. Mr. Barroso-Duval, you got the floor. Go ahead.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm perfectly comfortable with accepting the amendments put forward by my colleagues, except for one thing. No problem in adding Viking Air. No problem with removing the date of April 30th. I understand that that might be a bit close. But if we put that off to the end of every other study, the notion of holding one meeting was so that we didn't, in fact, delay any other studies. We'd like to do this quickly because this situation is quite urgent for outfitters and others in the north, the Cree, for example. So I think there should be some date, some way to show willingness for the meeting to be held soon.
Duval, just one comment. I'm trying to expedite this because we have witnesses that are here, and I want to respect their time. Members, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, we've done numerous studies, most if not which all were studies that were proposed by the opposition parties. And to complete those studies, we have to have reports come back to committee, be ratified, and presented to Parliament. We have yet to do that, and that's going to take time. I know time is the problem here, unless folks want to work through the summer, which, by the way, I have no problem with, to meet a lot of the requests for further studies past what we agreed upon will be challenging. So that's point number one. Point number two is that I am attempting to schedule a business planning meeting. That within itself is challenging because we do have scheduled meetings with witnesses attached to those meetings in the upcoming week or two. So we probably won't get into that business planning meeting until a week or two. At that time, when we do enter into that discussion during that meeting, we can then discuss a reprioritizing if members of the committee wish. And with that, try to fit a lot of your desires with respect to existing as well as future studies in the queue. But I want to reemphasize my earlier point. Doing studies is not too productive if you can't finally get a report to Parliament. We can do all the studies we want, But if we can't finalize them by having a report to present to Parliament, then it's all for naught. So my intention, my priority as the chair of the committee is to in fact attempt to steer committee to getting to that point with the studies that have already been completed with respect to bringing those reports to Parliament. We're looking at hopefully bringing at least 2 before June. And then from there, we can continue on with the studies that we established during the planning session that would be then therefore reestablished in the queue. So with that, if anybody has any further questions, Mr. Clerk, I'm going to accept that those amendments as friendly and add them in the motion, just in a matter of respecting time. So with that, and the motion has been added some flexibility to it with respect to Mr. Fillmore and Mr. Churance's interventions. Mr. Alcuri, I see your hand up. Do you have a question?
Merci, Monsieur le Président, mais honnêtement,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but you've just said what I was intending to say. In addition, however, I would also, like to say that the agenda is already quite full, and we have a responsibility to produce 2 reports. I would be interested in discussing Mr. Barsalou-Duval's motion, and I would also like to hear the views of our Conservative colleagues on this. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? The clerk is telling me that I cannot, by rules of the House, accept a friendly amendment. So I will have to ask for a vote on that. So to that, are there any further questions or comments to the amendment made by Mr. Fillmore? Yes, Mr. Sadu.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to intervene here. I do think it's important what you mentioned that we need to get reports completed. I understand the urgency of different matters that colleagues bring up, but we do need to present some reports to the House. I mean, there's really in my mind, bringing all these witnesses out, studying something, and not producing anything from it. We can go on about this every week, and something will come up. But I think there should be some type of an agenda that we should follow as a committee, so to produce some good results and reports that we can pass along to other colleagues in the House. So that's just my input there. But I would like to hear from my other counterparts on the Conservatives and the NDP. I know Mr. Duval's point here.
Thank you, Mr. Sadu. Any further questions or comments on the amendment? With none, I will ask pleasure of the committee. Actually, Mr. Clerk, if you can call the vote.
Mr. Fillmore,
Yes, Stephen.
Monsieur El Khoury,
en faveur,
Miss Jessic,
In favor.
Mr. Rogers,
In favor.
Mr. Sidhu,
In favor.
Mr. Fillmore,
In favor.
Mr. Cram,
In favor.
Miss Kusi,
Pour.
Mr. Shipley,
In favor.
Mr. Scheer,
In favor.
Monsieur Barsalou-Duval,
Pour.
Mr. Backrack.
In favor.
So unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll now go to the main motion as amended. Members of committee, any questions or comments further? With none, your pleasure. Mr. Clerk, go ahead. Mr. Backrack, you had a question?
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Chair. I haven't weighed in yet, but I have spoken with Mr. Barsalou-Duval, and I've also reached out to the guide outfitting industry in Northwest BC, and this is an issue of interest to them, so I would support the motion as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Backrack. Mr. Clerk, you can call the vote.
Mr. Fillmore,
In favor.
Monsieur El Khoury,
pour,
Miss Jessic,
In favor.
Mr. Rogers,
In favor.
Mr. Sidhu,
In favor.
Mr. Cram,
In favor.
Miss Kusi,
Pour.
Mr. Shipley,
In favor.
Mr. Scheer,
In favor.
Monsieur Barsalou-Duval,
Pour.
Mr. Backrack.
In favor.
So, Chair, unanimous, 11-0, 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Barceló-Duval and members of the committee. Mr. Barceló-Duval, the floor is yours for another 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question is for Mr. Demers. Mr. Demers, in your opening statement, and even in answering questions put by my colleagues, you highlighted quite strongly the fact that flexibility was needed for funding from the gas tax fund. What surprised me at the outset when we talked about making changes to that, we were told that no changes had in fact been made to the gas tax program, but in fact there had been. As we ascertained, even though the changes are relatively minor, seemingly, they lead to major differences in how things are applied. For example, some aspects are prioritized in a given program, but the money could be used for other things. There is a big difference between exclusive funding and non-exclusive funding. We can see that municipal buildings, fire stations can't be supported through the gas tax fund because of the changes that were brought to it. We do, however, support the approach. We have had a number of opportunities to speak with Minister McKenna. We keep getting non-answers in various forms. How important is that to you? Very. We've been talking about it for years. The real change that occurred was in the applications. When we look at the numbers, it doesn't seem to change so much, but in the way the program was applied, things change. In the past, we were able to use funding from the gas tax fund. 20% comes from the province, and we could use that in a broader way. Now we have to be much more restrictive, and we can't use it where we need it necessarily. Now we have a wonderful opportunity to say we can add the funding. It's predictable funding, and now it needs to be enhanced. We have to be permitted to use it for a broader source of municipal projects. For example, highways. Highways have to be managed in an ongoing fashion. They have 10 and 12-year cycles. We can't look at 1 or 2-year cycles there. We sometimes have problems with waterways in different places. In Quebec, we know that there are dams that need to be upgraded. That's a municipal responsibility. Why can't we use this money for it? I was giving you the example of a fire station. In the past, we could use money for planning and for setting up what we needed. And when we got to the construction stage, we thought we could keep using the money, but at that point, we were told no because changes had been made and the application of the program had become more restrictive. So the money's there. What we want to do is not have to return it, use it where we need it, and not have to tax residents so much. Thank you. In my riding, I have medium-sized towns with 30, 40,000 people, small municipalities. What I've been seeing is that in small municipalities, this is something that comes up much more often because larger municipalities have so many projects that they do have more money to use for other things. Is that right? Absolutely. In larger municipalities, you often have engineers working for the municipality, working for the city. Sometimes subsidy programs come up very quickly. The great thing about the gas tax is that we can predict and project the money that we're going to get, and we can plan programs. We don't want to have to rush things. we need to be able to plan. And there's another problem if we get all kinds of funding at the same time, because then the cost of employees in the trades goes up very suddenly. So we want to be able to extend things over time. We want to be able to use it for a range of things, for example, to build a fire station and not just to build a road.
MERS, thank you,
Merci.
Mr. Barroso-Duval. Very much appreciated. Mr. MERS, you raised a good point about the sustainability of the gas tax fund, especially when you're entering into larger projects that you're going to debt finance. And to have that guaranteed revenue stream coming in every year makes it a lot easier to plan well in ahead. So good point. We're now going to move on to our second round for 5 minutes. Starting us off with the Conservatives is Mr. Baldinelli. Mr. Baldinelli, welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the witnesses for appearing today. I'd like to begin, if I could, to Regional Chair Bradley.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I think you may have missed me in the lineup there.
Did I miss you?
I won't read anything into it. Don't worry.
My apologies, Ms.
Not your fault, Tony.
Mr.
Mr.
Baldinelli,
Chair.
hold off for a second. Mr. Bachrach, you are correct. Go ahead. You have the floor for 6 minutes. I'm sorry. I'll even give you a little bit
An
extra
extra
time.
20 seconds. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I
Go ahead,
appreciate
go
the
ahead.
accommodation.
Go ahead, Taylor.
I appreciate the study starting. It's such an important topic, and I thank Ms. Jacek for allowing me to amend it to include a particular focus on rural internet, an issue that is so germane and so critical for Northwest BC. And I'm really happy that we were able to hear from Coastal First Nations, from Mr. Correa. I'm sorry that Ms. Smith-Martin wasn't able to connect. I hope we get to hear from her again in the future. Mr. Correa, I have a few questions to expand on what you've told us about the situation facing Indigenous communities on BC's North Coast. I wonder if you could start by just describing what the current state of connectivity is for Indigenous communities. What internet speeds do coastal communities currently receive?
Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Bachrach. I don't offhand know the exact speeds. What I do know is in terms of service, it goes from absolutely abysmal, no service, to at times pretty decent service. So useful tools like internet in schools is not possible in a number of the communities because the service isn't there. Everyone's really keen about things like virtual doctor. Well, those aren't available because there is no service. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge of service availability, but generally and unfortunately, it's poor.
Thank you, Mr. Correa. Now, the federal government has committed to delivering high-speed internet, and I believe the minimum standard is 50 down, 10 up. They've committed to delivering that standard to 98% of Canadians by 2026. I wonder if Coastal First Nations are concerned that that remaining 2% could be in our region, on the North Coast, in small, remote Indigenous communities.
Mr. Correa.
Yes, thank you. Certainly, it's a concern, but let me respond kind of in two stages. We've got to bring the game up to where communities have basic service, and so that's what we're struggling with a number of the communities in the North Coast and the Central Coast of British Columbia. We would love to be discussing and arguing about getting it up to that better level, but we're pretty basic right now. If I could further say too that while we appreciate the government programming, a big concern is that the way it's been set up, this targeted infrastructure program, which wants to get the business community involved in providing service, and everyone's for that. I think there was a P3 question earlier. The concern is that we're in that business case approach, leaving it open to the big service providers and others, that they're chasing the business case and not the values. And what that means is that they get to pick the winners and losers. And again, some of the most difficult communities to reach will remain underserved because they don't provide that opportunity to make a buck but these are Canadians. This is Canada. We need to make sure that the level of service to all our citizens, including the most remote and difficult First Nation communities, reaches a basic level.
Mr. Bachrach?
I really appreciate that answer, Mr. Correa. It reflects my observation, which is that when the private sector is relied on to serve rural communities with services like broadband, there has to be a business case, and so the most densely populated areas, of course, get service first, leaving people in the most sparsely populated areas at the end of the line. So I'm wondering if you could just reflect a bit on what a better model needs to look like and how we get these very small communities like Clem2 and Hartley Bay and others in the region that I represent, how we get them connected to even basic service.
Mr. Correa?
I thank you. I think that working together is really important. That there are in the span of communities that you're aware of that we represent, the 9 communities, some larger groupings and then some of the very small ones that you've mentioned. If we can work together and maybe be a broad service provider, that scales up, that permits the possibility of technicians and technical people to be shared. I think that's the only way to do this. And indeed, that's the premise of Coastal First Nations. We're a not-for-profit owned by our member nations. We have no skin in the game, so to speak. We are not the rights and title holder. Those are with the nations, but we provide this service of bringing people together. And so I think that scaling up opportunity is a practical way to go for both senior governments and funders, and maybe even the private sector.
Mr. Bachrach?
Thanks for that, Mr. Correa. You mentioned in your remarks the Universal Broadband Fund and the fact that the application process landed in communities right at the same time when they were scrambling to deal with the impact of the pandemic. When it comes to that last mile infrastructure that's going to be so critical in order for communities to tap into the Connected Coast project, which is a tremendously exciting infrastructure project on the North Coast, are you pushing the federal government to extend the deadline to reopen the Universal Broadband Fund, or to create some other model that allows communities to get that vital infrastructure that last bit of the way?
Yeah, let me answer it this way, Mr. Bachrach. If we truly are going to take a reconciliation approach, then why are we placed into a competitive situation that if for whatever unforeseen reason we don't get our applications in, or the most smallest incapable nation, incapable only because of the lack of people and timing, why would we be pitted, or they be pitted against larger, more well-serviced nations, and then be told you didn't make the cutoff, sorry, there's no more funding? I don't think that's the way to approach this in a country like Canada. I don't think this is the way to approach something like a basic service like last mile connection to the backbone.
Thank you, Mr. Correa, and thank you, Mr. Bachrach.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Baldinelli, second round, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and again, thank you to the witnesses. As I indicated just a little bit earlier, I was going to go to my first question to our regional chair, Mr. Bradley. And he was discussing the region's needs in Niagara, and the priority areas being affordable housing, the trade corridor, free trade zone, the wastewater facility, and broadband. And during his comments, he mentioned the impediment about the ambiguous criteria of the infrastructure programs and the need for additional flexibilities. And with regards to the I believe it's $130 million wastewater facility that's going to be built in South Niagara, I would like to ask, I mean, have the region formally submitted an application? Have they already been speaking with government officials on that? And are there concerns at present?
Mr. Bradley?
The answer is yes, we have been in communication with federal authorities on this. They are aware of our need for funding from the federal government. When I mentioned it being somewhat ambiguous, it's, as I mentioned, the criteria said if you wanted the green fund, which you would think this would be part of, if you wanted to have that, they said, well, it's for rehabilitation purposes or upgrades. Well, this is a brand new plant. If I want to interpret that appropriately for funding, I would say it's an upgrade or an improvement to the overall system of treating wastewater. So if it could be defined in that particular way, it could be eligible for funding. And certainly a project that when you get into projects in the hundreds of millions of dollars for a local municipality or a regional municipality to be able to afford that project would be a major challenge. And that is why we are seeking funding for it. A couple of purposes there, and Councillor and Mayor Senzik, who spoke about the need for the Great Lakes. As you know, from time to time, when there's a major storm that takes place, wastewater treatment plants across the country tend to have to open up and let it rip, to put it bluntly, because they cannot take the capacity, the volume of water coming in to the existing wastewater plants. So environmentally, this would be a project which would be benefiting the environment, the Niagara River in this case, and ultimately the Great Lakes. But second, it would accommodate growth, including the new hospital, which has received early portions of its approval, new hospital in Niagara Falls. And having this new wastewater plant available would allow that to proceed and would allow development, which inevitably will come around the hospital, to proceed as well. So being able to define that as I say, an improvement to the overall wastewater system as opposed to strictly an upgrade or an improvement to existing facility would be very beneficial.
No, I concur. No, thank you, Chair. I concur in that assessment. I mean, just the alleviating the stress that is put on facilities such as North Niagara and in Fort Erie, and the development again of this $130 million facility. Not only the timing with the new hospital that will be built, but to help facilitate that entire growth and development in the South Niagara area, especially with the trade corridor and the free trade zone, I think is vitally important. So good luck to you on that in working with government officials to ensure that we get the flexibility that is required in terms of that program. Secondly, Chair, I'd like to go to Councillor Foster and talk about broadband in Niagara. And I know in January through SWIFT, there was an announcement of about 21.2 million in broadband upgrades, connecting another 5,629 homes, about 8.8 million, 4.4 from the province, 4.4 from the federal government. And despite that, we're still talking about 54% underserviced in our region alone. And Mr. Foster, in terms of that, like when we go forward with a project such as this, which brought in another 12.4 leveraged from the private sector, how long does that project take from initial seeking provincial and federal support to the rollout and announcement in January?
Mr. Foster?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the reality is with SWIFT and with these other programs that we have in place, it is a long process that we go through. And as you know, Niagara has been a member of SWIFT right from the start. So the 21.2 million that came onto the table in January is an awful lot of work that we've had to progress through and move forward with. But as you also know as well, like it only has sort of touched sort of a piece of what it is that we need to have done within Niagara. And by the way, I'm quite impressed with everybody else's remarks today. This is a common theme throughout the country. I mean, the rural broadband is one of those things that we need to be focusing in on and making sure that we have the adequate funding that's going into place. And we need to make sure, and going back to one of the earlier topics about the flexibility that's coming into place, we seem to get caught up in red tape, whether it's the province or the federal side of things when it comes to some of these programs as we move along. So anyway, just long story short, I'm very pleased with the federal investments in this and looking forward to, solving some of these problems over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Thank you, Mr. Baldinelli. Much appreciated. We're now going to move on to our next speaker for 5 minutes. Mr. Sadu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, and to our distinguished witnesses that are on our panel today. Mr. Correa, you mentioned connectivity in your opening remarks, and to my understanding, we are on track to connect roughly 98% of Canadians by 2026. And I know this is very near and dear to the minister. Definitely lots of good work being done, and I understand many communities are excited to be connected. Mr. Correa, just last week, our government with the government of BC committed to making the needed investments in the critical cellular infrastructure that will improve safety along Highway 16, also known as the Highway of Tears. Solving the problems of cellular gaps between communities along Highway 16 was among the Highway of Tears Symposium report's 33 recommendations aimed at enhancing safety for Indigenous women and girls. Can you discuss the impact of improving connectivity along this highway, particularly how this investment will improve the safety of women, especially Indigenous women?
Thank you, Mr. Sidhu. Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Chair. I think this area of Highway 16 leading into Prince Rupert from across the middle north of BC is absolutely important, and I think the investment made and the results that could come from that are certainly welcome. Certainly from our nations that are all on the coast, the terminus end of that highway, if you will, Highway of Tears, this would be very welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Sidhu.
Thank you for that, Mr. Correa. Mr. Correa, yesterday, Minister McKenna announced $1.5 billion in funding for green and inclusive buildings. I know in my riding, I know that these buildings, such as our local library and other community rec centers, help address the social, physical, and mental well-being of my constituents. Can you speak to the importance of these types of investments in your region and how they will help to create good jobs and help to build a greener future for all Canadians?
Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me answer it this way. In terms of the communities that I work for through CFN, sadly, they are amongst the worst in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and that. It's through no fault of their own. And, we are working on getting off diesel programs and insulation for housing and all of that. It really does require a coordinated effort. And so the work that your colleague, Minister McKenna and Minister Wilkinson, and that are doing is very much appreciated. But there is so much more that needs to be done in this linkage and this coordination. There's no point in putting in heat pumps and that into homes that are so poorly put together that it makes no sense to do that. It makes little sense to do things in an ad hoc way. I think it's by working through collectives like Coastal First Nations that we can achieve some of this. And I don't say that because I work for that outfit. We're mandated by our chiefs and leaders to make that kind of position. So we welcome the initiatives, but continue to work through us in a stronger way. Thank you.
Mr. Sidhu.
And I appreciate that, and definitely there's lots to be done. I agree with you, Mr. Foster and Mr. Bradley. Mr. Foster, Minister McKenna has been working extremely hard to support transit projects across the country, and there's quite a significant amount of transit funding commitments. How are you utilizing the transit funds that have been announced?
Mr. Bradley.
I think Mr. Bradley's on mute there.
Chair Bradley, you're on mute there.
I think I'm on now.
You're on.
We find the fund to be very helpful to us. We're in the process now of establishing a region-wide transit service, interregional, intercity, and intertown. And being able to use federal funds has enabled us to move forward in that regard. We already have a basic service. Our local municipalities, at least three or four of the larger ones, have bus services at the present time, and they certainly utilize the funds to an even greater extent in the region. But now the region is expanding into intermunicipal service, and service which we hope will someday be bringing people to GO Transit coming down our way. We find these funds to be extremely useful. We would not be able to expand our service as quickly or as extensively or as environmentally sensitively without the funding that's coming from senior levels of government including the federal government. So we would welcome continuation of funding in that regard, even though I know that there are times when you have to have the funding come through provincial governments. One of the things we always want to ensure is that when funding comes through provincial governments, any one of us or municipalities, the funding from the federal government actually makes its way down to the provincial, and down to the local government, because we don't want it to be lost somewhere along the way. And I haven't seen any examples where that's the case. So thumbs up to it. Continue sending the money, and we always welcome more. Anyone in a local municipality such as we are, we appreciate the kind of funding that you're providing, and we hope it will continue well into the future.
Thank you, Chair Bradley, and thank you, Mr. Sadu. We're now going to move on to our next set of questions from the Bloc Québécois. We have Mr. Barceau-Duval for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Demers, we've noted that in one of the Invest in Canada program components, there is a possibility for municipalities to adjust to catastrophes and climate disasters and climate change. The program requires a minimum investment of 20 million by municipalities. Do you believe that this is a problem for smaller municipalities that have no chance of investing 20 million in a given project? You're absolutely right. We're forgetting how Quebec is composed. There are so many municipalities, but barely 100 have over 20,000 people. Only 10 have more than 100,000 people. When I look at that, there are municipalities with 2,000 or 20,000 people or less, a few million in the budget. So when your total budget isn't more than 3 million, you can't possibly come up with 20. And really, I'm in the top third of Quebec municipalities. This shows you to what extent this is an unreasonable requirement. In the federal government, the connotation of what a large and medium-sized and small municipality was. A large municipality used to be 250,000 people and more. Now that's been improved to 100,000. So 100,000 people make something into a large municipality. Even across Canada, there are really very few municipalities of that size. So I don't understand why the requirements are for such large amounts, because it doesn't reflect what we can do. So clearly the target with these provisions is very large municipalities. Thank you. I don't have much time left, so I'll just quickly ask this. You were talking about broadband access. Is it possible for the federal government to do something to remove barriers? I think, or at least it certainly looks like that's been dealt with. There's a great agreement between the federal government and the provincial government. 146 million have been announced. I can certainly talk about issues that I think should move forward faster, but that one, I do believe that in Quebec we'll just have about 30,000 homes that still need to be connected by the end of 2022. Connecting everyone with fiber optic cable is a great thing.
Thank you, Mr. Barceau-Duval. We'll now move on to our next speaker, Ms. Cusi. Taylor, I'm just kidding. Mr.
Good one,
Bachrach.
Mr. Chair. Good one. It's good to see you have a sense of humor as I sit here and steam.
Mr. Bachrach, you have the floor for 2.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I have one more question for Mr. Correa, picking up where I left off last round. I had a conversation with the Newhawk recently, and they brought an interesting issue to my attention around IT capacity in Indigenous communities. As we see more and more communities get access to high-speed internet, and many Indigenous nations have visions for autonomy and ownership of those services. It feels like there's a gap around the IT service capacity within communities, especially in the transition to these more improved services. And I know that the block funding for reserve communities from ISC is very constrained. I wonder, Mr. Correa, if you could speak to any capacity challenges that might exist for First Nations in Northwest BC during this transition as we move towards communities having broadband access.
Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Chair. No, for sure. I think and as others have commented, the bigger backbone that's going to be laid, a fiber optic cable up the coast, that's cost shared between the federal and provincial governments, is terrific, and that's absolutely necessary. But when it comes to shore, and it will link all of our communities to that, the problem becomes what happens in terms of that last mile. And the funding for that is quite confused, and what is available tends to be snapped up by the private sector. And sadly, I mean, for the smart operators, they're just using government funding and saving their own for other things. And as I said earlier, for the nations, and particularly the smaller ones, it becomes a competitive process against each other rather than working together to get a proper last mile connection. What you further ask is the second part of that, is that even if you get the connection, if you don't have people trained up in the capacity to utilize and maximize, it's a tool that is suboptimally used. And so we do need funding support to make sure that people are trained and prepared. And again, it's not just a matter of throwing a few bucks and saying, well, put you in a university course. That's not the way it works. And everybody knows that in terms of First Nation communities coming out of the dark period of time in our history, that it's more than that. We're prepared as CFN to work with our member Newhalk and others to get that kind of training and capacity, but we need support.
Thank you, Mr. Correa. Thank you, Mr. Bachrach. We're now going to move on to the Conservatives. Ms. Cusi, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. My first question is for the Fédération québécoise de municipalités. The plan Invest in Canada, launched in the 2016 budget, works towards green infrastructure, social infrastructure, trade and transport, and rural and northern communities. How far can the new plan support public transit in rural areas in Canada? I believe that even though the plan mentions transport frequently, there's a kind of disconnect with transport in rural areas. So what measures should the government take to improve transport in Canada's rural regions? Thank you. Thank you for opening that door. We have had problems in the Gaspé recently, but I'll let David answer because he knows this area very well. Thank you. The Invest in Canada plan, well, as you know, infrastructure programs in Quebec are subject to a bilateral agreement between Quebec and Canada. We want that money to reach communities, and we want governments to work together so that programs can be implemented quickly in rural communities. With regard to transport in low population density regions and rural areas, there is a recurrent problem. In our view, the federal government needs to see part of its responsibility in the area of transport. For example, the railway, we were talking about the gas pay in relation to road transport. There has been investment in the gas pay for a number of years, and now the region is more under provincial responsibility, but the province would like the Green Line to extend through the peninsula, and funding will be needed.
Monsieur le Président, je peux continuer?
May I continue, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. I think I have 2 minutes. Federal tax reform means that tax money is provided to the province twice a year, and there is flexibility in how the funding are used. Banking operations have been carried out to put some funds in common. It is difficult to determine in some cases which projects can use funding and which provinces cannot. Do you believe that infrastructure projects put forward by municipalities and the municipal use of funding needs to be broadened? You're quite right. Municipalities' use of the funding must be broadened because it's very restricted at the moment, especially if the federal government decided to invest more. We would need more flexibility to make sure that we could use it appropriately, put it where it was needed. Once we've dealt with everything that's related to water and sewage, we get to roads. Once we've dealt with the roads, we have buildings, we have structures and facilities, dams that are extremely important. We need to protect the waterways that are prone to flooding. There's significant investments needed there. We're not asking for more money. We want to be able to decide how the money should be spent. Great. What kind of projects should be included that you don't have at the moment? Well, quite often municipal buildings, city hall, fire stations, accommodation for firefighters, community facilities, dams and dikes. These are extremely important infrastructures. They're very expensive, and that would be a great way to invest funding. That actually is very much in line with what the federal government wants, things done by the municipality for the municipality. And that's why we need that flexibility. So let's keep the plan, but target projects that really serve people. Some municipalities end up returning money to the federal government and end up having to tax their residents more with property taxes because they don't have the needed flexibility to use the federal funding for the projects they need to put money into. I don't think that's really a difficult problem to solve.
Merci, Monsieur Dumais. Merci, Monsieur Boulay. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kusi. Now we have our next speaker, Liberal speaker, Ms. Jacek. I sense there's going to be somewhat of a reunion here between two former provincial ministers. So, Ms. Jacek, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and I certainly appreciate all the testimony from all the witnesses. But the topic of the hours does seem to be connectivity, the access for all Canadians to high-speed internet. And I'm on the Industry, Science and Technology Committee, and we have been studying the accessibility and affordability of high-speed internet in some detail. So I'm well aware of the fact that our government has, in fact, committed since 2015 to an investment of some $6.2 billion in terms of ensuring connectivity for all Canadians, 98%, in fact, by 2026. It's all very well, of course, to make these big announcements, but the purpose, I think, here today is to try and understand how these projects are actually going to be actioned and what your experience is on the ground. So indeed, I would like to turn to my former colleague, Chair Bradley. We were together for more than 10 years in the Ontario legislature. And I have a really friendly question to start off with, Jim. I'm sure that you are embracing all this new technology with your usual enthusiasm.
The answer to that is yes. The chair has had to remind me to unmute myself only twice out of 3 times. So that is the case, and we do appreciate it. And may I say that to Ms. Jacek that it's particularly important, we've noted during the period of COVID-19, where people are reliant upon the internet, they're reliant upon the broadband to make sure that there is that connectivity. And while it's fine in the large urban centers, in the more rural parts of Niagara, for instance, it's a major challenge. And I'll ask Councillor Foster to elaborate on that as well.
Actually, thank you. Thank you, Chair Bradley. Councillor Foster, you did talk about difficulty perhaps in navigating the application process and so on. In York Region, where my riding is situated, the region has taken the lead in terms of trying to assist some of the smaller municipalities within York Region with the whole application process on behalf of some of their residents. And I do know that there is something called the Pathfinder process that apparently assists. So could you describe how things are working in Niagara Region?
Mr. Foster.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. So I happen to also be sitting on the board of SWIFT in Ontario and also on the AMO board along with Graydon. And of course, the whole topic of broadband comes up over and over again. I like the SWIFT model that we've been following. And the fact is that it's tying together municipal and the 2 upper levels of government to have a specific program in place. But the big thing out of this, and if I can be blunt, is I think it's the coordination effort that needs to go on amongst all of the partners as we're moving along. You mentioned yourself too that there has been a decent amount of money that's been put into the system, and I know the province of Ontario has as well, and we have here in Niagara as well been looking at things. But there's so many differing programs that seem to be coming in front of municipalities. I happen to know some of our lower tiers are out actively going after other funding programs, and it's adding confusion to the way some of these partnerships are coming into play. So I'm looking at a well-rounded, coordinated effort that needs to go on. I hope that answers your questions, Madame.
I was just wondering if you had heard of the Pathfinder. It's supposed to assist municipalities in the process.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, we have, and the reality is, again, taking a look at what's happening with Niagara Region, we were early adopters of the SWIFT program, so we've been actively participating within that, but no, we haven't been actively within that area.
Ms. Jessica?
Yes. Well, Mr. Smith, speaking for AMO, have you had any particular role? Mr. Foster, Councillor Foster just alluded to some role for AMO in terms of assisting perhaps some of the smaller, more rural areas in accessing funds for high-speed internet.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you for the question. We've certainly played an advocacy role with both levels of government. Obviously, me being here today is part of that. I am with the provincial government on funding, and we have a team at AMO that is working diligently to coordinate all the information out there and share it with municipalities throughout Ontario. I would say that circumstances, as we've heard, differ greatly throughout the province in terms of the level of organization. So you have SWIFT in Southwest Ontario, EORN in Eastern Ontario, but in Northern Ontario, there's not quite the same level of coordination, even in my own area. In Muskoka, there isn't really a group that we're part of. So on a district level, we've got an RFP going out shortly to try and capture some of the dollars that are out there. So it is confusing. AMO again is trying to play as much as of a role as it can in terms of getting information out to municipalities to make sure that they're aware of the programs that are out there, aware of the opportunities, and of course the Rural Ontario Municipal Association has done an extensive amount of work on that as well, and they've really taken the lead in terms of sharing information with their partners too.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Ms. Jessic and Chair Bradley. We're now going to move on to our third round. Up for 5 minutes for the Conservatives. Mr. Cram, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe it was Mr. Shipley's turn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Chair, we have switched out, which is...
You've switched out? Okay. Yeah. I still have my notes here showing Mr. Cram. Mr. Shipley, go ahead. You get the floor.
Thanks very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say welcome to all the witnesses today. I think on this committee we have a great wealth of knowledge on municipal infrastructure and politics, and now today we've got an overwhelming amount of people who have been involved in municipal politics for a long time. So it's great to have such great witnesses here. I'm going to maybe start with my first question towards Mr. Smith and maybe Mr. Demare. When I was on council in Barrie, we many times talked about our infrastructure deficit and how we called it almost a looming cliff that was going to be approaching us quickly. I'm sure Mr. Smith and Mr. Demers have heard this from many of their members underneath there. Maybe they can express just what they're hearing from their municipalities and the size of the infrastructure deficit and how that's going to be impacting municipalities coming in the near future.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Certainly the deficit is enormous and one that municipalities cannot tackle alone. We're in the tens of billions of dollars staring down municipal budgets, and we need assistance, quite frankly, to make things happen. If I could give an example, we've had the ICIP program for the last number of years. It's been discussed today in a couple of different ways. Within that, there's a component for community culture and recreation projects, again, a bilateral between the federal government and the province. That total was I think around $400 million in Ontario between the two levels of government. And it was simply not enough. That program came out, it was oversubscribed 10 to 1. And that is indicative of some of the challenges that we face in terms of infrastructure deficit. So for most communities that applied, they got the rejection letter and are left wondering, well, what do we do now? My community was one of those where we were replacing 180 years of combined infrastructure with an arena and a library. And I know the merits of the project were as strong as they could be, yet we weren't able to access funding. And I would put that squarely on the fact that there's just not enough money in the program. So the infrastructure deficit is enormous. It is something that municipalities need help with. Again, that level of flexibility to make investments in communities with targeted projects and targeted dollars is incredibly important, but the quantity of those dollars is certainly important as well.
Mr. Demers.
Je vais passer la parole à David.
I think David will be better placed to answer that question. Thank you. In Quebec, we find similar situations. The municipal infrastructure is funded either on an annual basis or it's project-based. And that means the infrastructures are always in deficit on the maintenance front or on the implementation front. We were hearing about rejections for cultural or sports infrastructure. That's what happened in January in Quebec, a program that was in line for federal funding, but arenas and sports facilities had their funding refused because the money was insufficient in a context where there was a pandemic. So this is certainly a problem because it's difficult to put the money where we need it for renewal, infrastructure renewal in the long term. I believe that in Quebec, like elsewhere, there are questions. Do municipalities have the tools they need to fund their infrastructure? The answer is no. Now, there are many different solutions to this, but the deficit on assets is significant. Thank you.
Mr. Shipley?
Thank you, Chair. Do I have more time?
You do.
Okay,
You have
thank you.
about a minute and a half.
Okay, I'll go back. Well, a quick question to Mr. Smith then. During the COVID pandemic, I know a lot of municipalities, two of the only ways they have of really getting funds are through property taxes and user fees. I know some municipalities have tried to help out residents through assisting with property taxes and user fees. There are some funds been provided. I know through the municipalities in Ontario, a lot has been received from the provinces. Are your municipalities still calling on more money for infrastructure to help assist with maybe some federal funds or programs?
Mr. Smith?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And yes, absolutely, we are. We've been pleased with the support that we've received both federally and provincially so far. Recently, we received some solely provincial money, around $500 million for operation and infrastructure for municipalities. I think that the thing to keep in mind is that if municipalities don't have sufficient operating funds and if their revenues are impaired, and what we kind of have to do to stay afloat, so to speak, in terms of providing the services that we normally provide. If our revenues have been impaired on the operating side, then you start to see scavenging on the capital side, and infrastructure doesn't get built, and projects start to get scrapped or pushed back or delayed. So that's why the funding to support municipalities today in terms of operational challenges and infrastructure challenges is so vitally important. We've seen user fees crater, transit ridership crater, and the cost of delivering these services continues to rise for us because we have to do it in unique ways, but they're all services our communities need. So continued investment in municipalities in all forms is needed and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Mr. Shipley. Just an FYI for members of the committee, I am going to get through this round. So Mr. Barroso-Deval and Mr. Bachrach, you will have opportunities for your interventions. We're not going to go on to the Liberals. Mr. Alcuri, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our witnesses. My first question is for Mr. Demers. Last month, our government furthered its cooperative approach to broadband and announced in conjunction with the Government of Quebec investment of over $800 million to fund the fast tracking broadband connection project throughout the province. This investment will make it possible for all Quebecers to be connected to high-speed internet by the end of 2022. Can you tell us how far investment in broadband infrastructure is crucial to the economic recovery of the province, particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic? You're absolutely right. I think that is one of the most wonderful investments the government could make. I don't know if people realize just how important this is. This is not recurrent investment. We're basically getting fast internet, high-speed internet to everybody, after which it will pay for itself. We won't need recurrent funding for this. In a few years, that'll investment will have paid for itself, but we had to finance it up front. This kind of investment is being made. It's great, and in 17 months we should have managed to connect all of Quebec. That is a great investment. I think the same thing applies everywhere with COVID, with what's happening. Students are being sent home to study from home. People are being sent home to work from home. Everything is getting done from home. And then when you're at home, you can't do it if you don't have broadband. So for a lot of homes, it was an unbelievable problem. I met with Prime Minister Trudeau about a year and a half ago, and I told him this. But everything's changed now because before we went from calling it essential to something without which we absolutely cannot do. We cannot function without it. So this investment is an extremely important step, and I hope that all Canadians will get connected as quickly as possible. Thank you. My second question is also for you, Mr. Demers. The Minister of Infrastructure and Communities recently announced that the department would undertake a national review of infrastructure that will launch a process to determine Canada's infrastructure needs in the future. So how can our government ensure that our investment in infrastructure leads to building green communities, and I do stress the word green, green and inclusive communities in which we will all want to live? Two answers to that, I think. The first, very well done, because that's what it takes. It takes a management plan. Our infrastructure, particularly roads and highways, we know that over 10 or 12 years, regardless of what happens, we have to tar them, we have to resurface them, depending on the volume of traffic. We need to get that cycle going, and once it's done, we can tell people exactly when the road in front of their house is going to be redone. We need to know when that maintenance can be done, and to do that, we need to know when the funding comes. Right now, we're operating on a 30-year cycle. We need to be on a 10 or 12-year cycle. And yes, everything needs to be greener. There are a lot of things we can do. We could talk about parking, and we can talk about highways. Every road is twice as wide as it needs to be for the cars because we have ditches on either side. We can do that digging in a very protective way where we don't just take away earth, we protect what's there from erosion. There are a lot of things we can do. There are methods that departments of transport know full well, and they know what those methods are. And there are things we can do to protect infrastructure for the long term. We can be greener with tried and proven and tested techniques. There's no point in reinventing the wheel when methods exist.
We're not going to move on to the Bloc Québécois. Mr. Barceau-Duval, you got the floor for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, the question is for you, Mr. Demers. You have been very much in demand today, and I'm sure that's a good thing. I am the transportation and infrastructure critic, and the federal government tends to keep announcing a bunch of new programs, and it can sometimes be complicated to find one's way around them because programs come and go, and then there's funding or no funding, and teams change. Do you find that this sort of thing could be a problem? Especially since the federal government then has to reach agreements with the provincial government and municipalities. So when the federal government isn't acting in good faith, suddenly the money disappears or takes a lot of time to flow. Then there are new programs that come and go. How do you find your way around that? Because there isn't one department that's looking for funding full time. You need predictability and stability. Absolutely. I don't think the size of the municipality matters in this. All municipalities need to plan and project. That's why it's important to carry out a study to assess the current state of infrastructure. Some municipalities have done it, but even if I wanted to do that, I wouldn't have the means to do it. And you're absolutely right in talking about predictability. These programs should be organized in concert, and municipalities should be able to use funding where they need it. That's why we need that flexibility. When we get large subsidies, we can formulate requests that fit with the management cycle and that fit with what we need to do. These assessments are certainly useful to show governments where the municipality is going, but it's also useful for municipality residents because that way they know what the municipality is doing as well, and they know what's going to happen to their property taxes because they can get an overall picture. I think we need that overall picture for a long-term view.
great answers. So I wanted to say this to each and every one of you. Actually, before I go and move to adjournment, I wanted to give Mr. Smith an opportunity to clarify one thing based on the great answer you gave earlier. And that was about sustainable funding, the gas tax, etc. But we very much respect this process because a lot of this testimony finds its way to the analysts, and of course they come back with the report based on a testimony. And with that said, I want to give you an opportunity to get that testimony into the record. And you mentioned earlier about the sustainable funding. And my question to you is that if the amounts were to increase, say for the gas tax, for example, and you were then able, municipalities were then able to have that sustainable funding envelope in place. Do you feel that with that said, and of course, debenture opportunities then becoming more relevant because you have that sustainable funding envelope that can offset that annual debenture payment on your operating budget, do you think that would in fact mitigate the oversubscription of the programs that we're actually offering, as well as expedite infrastructure work?
To a point, but I don't think it would solve it entirely. I think there's still a need for programs that address major capital infrastructure pieces. Using the example of my own community, again, we planned for 10 years for an eventuality where we got funding and we didn't get funding. We're going to use a significant amount of our available debenture capacity to move forward with the project, regardless, because of the age of our facilities. If you're in a small community and want to build an arena, it costs just as much as if you're in a big community and want to build an arena. And the capacities in small communities for debt is certainly limited. So I'm not going to say that the money wouldn't be welcome and it wouldn't be appreciated and it wouldn't be put to good use. And as I've said, sustainable, predictable, and enduring funding is important. But at the same time, there is only so much debt capacity for especially small communities to tap into because their tax base is just so small.
Right. Good point. Well, gentlemen and ladies, thank you. Thank you. This was a great session. I think it was one of the best sessions we've had this term. So to each and every one of you, I want to thank you for your time today. You put a lot of time in, a lot of great answers, and to members, a lot of great questions. It was a very, very productive meeting. And with that, I thank you all, and I will take this opportunity to adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.